And it seems like all she came away from it with was frustration with Shannon Sharpe. And
Mhm.
I just,
I don't think it was with Shannon Sharpe.
well, okay.
I know that she's bashed Shannon Sharpe since then. But I think because even in the interview, she was saying that what the internet says has greatly affected her mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think she had a good experience and left, but the internet backlash is what has caused some of the things that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Because if you look since then, this is my opinion, not a fact. This is my opinion. If you look, what was one of the main takeaways since then? The autism thing. She went live twice to talk about it, then put up the post we read on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only after she did all of that and received more backlash that she said, "Oh, I went and watched it," and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
my opinion is this was not about Shannon Sharpe.
Mm-hmm.
This was about the internet backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, one thing I do agree with from what you said is, um, maybe it is a better time to work on healing
Mm-hmm.
and not doing public appearances of this sort because and because I can understand that. And also if you are, maybe you got to take some time to find a place that can understand like your quirks and some of the things that you are tying to the autism, because when she was speaking I can understand a lot of what she was saying about being very literal, not understanding certain things the way other people do. And so maybe you need to go somewhere, I don't know where off the top of my head, but maybe you need a space that does understand those things and is not going to ask you 7 questions about racism and is not going to ask you 7 questions about autism. 7 is a random example number.
Right. That racism thing was weird. Not for her, for him. It was just
Well,
like,
he also had a point with the teacher thing, not with everything, but with the teacher thing. Yeah, most teachers, most adults don't want to be corrected by kids. I totally understand that. We are younger than Shannon Sharpe. When I worked with kids for many years, and is really about the perspective of the person that's being corrected in those instances. Because many older people don't want to be corrected by kids. They feel like, hey, shut the fuck up, adults are talking.
I get that.
So,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I was just saying with that one, I understood why he was asking and why he was saying that. Um, Especially because her story didn't necessarily seem racially motivated. It just seemed like an older white lady who didn't want you talking. Yes, you were the only person in the class who was black, and yeah, you had great grades and all this other stuff. But it doesn't mean an old any color person wants to be corrected by a child, especially when they're the leader in that setting. So I don't think either one of them is wrong. It could have been racism. We're not there to know all of the things that happened. But I also see that based on her story, yeah, maybe it was just an old adult who doesn't believe kids should be talking out in that way. Even working with kids in after school programs and shelters and summer camps, I've seen stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand that part of it. The old West Indian people say children are to be seen and not heard. I totally understand all of that. I just the she gave additional context, and that's why I was like, I guess my perspective was, why is it so why is it so necessary to disprove her if she's given context outside of one instance where she felt like this person was um where she felt like this person was something about this person and the way she dealt with her was racially charged. The only reason I say that is because uh, I don't know about you, but I know for me, I've been in many classrooms where I've been the only one. So I think sometimes those things happen, and I do think that unconscious bias is real. And even though a person may not walk into a room thinking of themselves as a racist, or thinking of themselves as, um, being discriminatory towards one person over another person or whatever. I do think it just kind of happens if you're not conscious of it, if you're not paying attention to treating everybody the same or whatever. Um, so I don't know. I guess what I'm saying was weird is that I don't know that he needed to, like, I think if that was her perspective, you asked the question and it was asked and answered. I just feel like he was like really trying to like get her to agree with him. And I
Mhm.
think that that's where this interview went wrong multiple times, where it was like an interview, and that's, he says like he's not trying to be a journalist or whatever, so there's that. But I think what can be frustrating, not only for the guests but also for us as an audience, is that when he'll ask things and then he'll like want to, like, he almost tries to like convince the guest of what he thinks about something. And it's, I think you have to be able to read the room. And I think that has worked for him with other guests, but I don't think that with this particular guest it worked. And I know this podcast is not here to critique Shannon Sharpe, but I'm just saying it because I think that it matters in the context of what we're talking about.
It
Um,
does.
I think that's part of the problem, that that's why it was weird, because it was just like, okay, she answered you, she told you what her perspective was, and even if you don't agree with her, why is it so important to you to get her to see what you think about the situation that you weren't even there for?
Yeah. I totally understand. They both got stuck at different points on different things, and it created a lot of tension during the first half of the interview. He says, I'm only saying to what he said. He says he was trying to just offer a different perspective, not invalidate her experience. Whether he's right or wrong, whether that's truly what he was trying to do or not,
Mm-hmm.
it did come across really weird,
Yeah.
because I don't know whether he was trying to convince her or not, or offer a different perspective or not. But what I do know is it was weird and it created tension. The same thing with the autism thing. Um, they both at certain points were stuck on things, it seemed like, where he wouldn't let certain things go at one point, at another point she wouldn't let things go at a certain point, and they both were
Mhm.
visibly frustrated
Right.
with the situation. And that's not good. Also, I want to say Shannon got to shit or get off the pot, because he keeps saying he's not a journalist, but you keep doing interviews. So you got to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have an interviewing style and we all want to work on our interviewing style. There's no problem with that. But you can't keep using this excuse of, yeah, but I'm not a journalist. Okay, you're not a journalist, but you're sitting down with 8 million people, exaggeration, to do these interviews. You saying it's a drink and a conversation, but that's marketing. Because when the tense moment came, what did you say to her? Hey, you know what? This is your interview. I'm gonna just stick to the cue cards.
The cue
It's an
cards that
interview.
were wrong.
Yes, absolutely. And he didn't listen well. And this is what I'm saying. So you're saying things in the interview that involve journalism, that involve you and your team doing some research.
Yeah.
If you are wrong, that's fine. But then you have to say, hey, you know what, guys? I
Hmm.
was wrong. I made a mistake. I have to do better. Not, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a journalist. It can't keep being both. Very soon, you're going to have to decide what you're going to do. But it cannot be both, because this excuse of I'm not a journalist, I agree, it's an excuse. He can't keep using it.
No. But that is what he has. That's kind of his shtick now, and
Yeah, I don't like it. It got to go.
then it got to be. Then let's get rid of the cue cards.
Right. And let's just talk.
Let's just have a conversation, because really that's the way it like. I don't know. It's not. I don't think you have to. interview in a traditional interview style in the way that Robin Roberts and Diane Sawyer and Gayle King interview, right?
Hmm.
But I do think that there has to be some sort of structure or some sort of plan for when you deviate from whatever the topic is, because I don't think he knows how. I don't think he. I want to say I don't think he knows. I don't think he steers people back into the right direction. I also think that sometimes, I've said this before, that sometimes the questions are like
Clear.
questions that are weird, and it's okay to think outside of the box and ask questions that are outside of the box. But like I said last week, we got way too much of the childhood and the
Yeah.
gymnastics and all of that, and
Yeah, we didn't need
not
all that.
enough of like, I would have liked to really then focus on, if we were going to talk more about her career, I would have preferred to learn more about the things that she has been working on. She mentioned them, but they
Right.
really didn't get a spotlight. And I think that that's up to him and his team to, you know. But yeah, so I guess, that's our episode, because
Yeah, we didn't think we
um,
were going to talk this long about it,
yeah, but
but we've
really
unpacked it now.
interesting. What'd you say?
I said we've definitely unpacked it now.
We've definitely unpacked it, and I know we talked about like just being thoughtful about the way we unpacked it, because it sounds like, she's got a lot going on, between revealing her assault to the autism diagnosis, however you want to classify that. Um, it just seems like there's a lot happening on her end, and maybe this
Hmm.
maybe this didn't help the situation. So
Right.
I'm glad that we were able to have like a decent conversation about everything that happened. And I think we can both say that while we may not have agreed with every single thing, or while we may not have, um understood every single thing that was said, I think, much respect to her, and hopefully she finds the way to the destination she's trying to get to.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like to be blackballed, but I imagine it is pretty it is pretty awful, when this is your livelihood. So, you know, yeah.
That has to be challenging.
Yeah.